All right. How's everybody doing? Hotep. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. We're broadcasting live tonight. It is Wednesday, November 22nd, 2017. And we are live tonight. We have a very special guest tonight. We have Professor Kaba Kamene. You've seen him in the Hidden Colors documentaries. You've seen him in Out of Darkness. You've seen him in the Black Friday series, and he's in Elementary Genocide Part 3 with myself and Professor James Small also. Okay. And I'm in the Black Friday series as well. Okay. Well, we have him on tonight because he's going to be in Detroit on Friday, November 24th, on Black Friday, for a screening and discussion of Black Friday Part 2. Black Friday Part 2. You see me with my Black Friday shirt on. All right. I'm in Black Friday Part 2 as well, featured in that documentary also. Okay. So we're going to bring them on here in just a minute. Stand by, Brother Kaba. Trying to log in also to Blog Talk Radio. Want to bring him on here for a few minutes so we can talk about the upcoming event taking place this Friday. We're going to do a screening of Black Friday Part 2, and we'll also do a panel discussion. Panel discussion is going to be very, very powerful. You don't want to miss that. Okay. Now let me check things here. Okay, trying to get Brother Kaba on the screen. Let's see. Says something's incompatible. Okay. We'll get him on here in just a minute here. Okay, so we're broadcasting on Facebook Live, our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and testing the audio, so that's good on Facebook Live as well. And let's see here. Trying to bring Brother Kaba on. All right. Okay, we're going live on Blog Talk Radio. Okay. All right. Those on Blog Talk, welcome to the African History Network show. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network. You can listen by phone, 914-338-1375. 914-338-1375 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. I'm trying to connect with Professor Kaba Kamene. We've got him in the queue. We were trying to do a video interview, and I'm not sure why this is not connecting here. So just give me a minute here dealing with this technology. We're broadcasting on Facebook Live and on YouTube also. Okay, our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. We're broadcasting there as well. Right. So I've been very, very busy, as you all have seen on Facebook Live. You know, I was in Atlanta this past weekend for the second annual Black Power Awards weekend. Second annual Black Power Awards weekend. That was going on in Atlanta. Can you all hear me on Facebook? You should be able to hear me on Facebook. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Right, so, testing. Okay, so I can hear on Facebook. Somebody said sound. I can hear on Facebook. All right, so we're waiting on him to connect through Google Chrome. And I was at the second annual Black Power Awards weekend this past weekend in Atlanta. Okay, the November 17th through November 19th. Met a lot of my listeners. The award show was on Saturday. So, I mean, it was fantastic. You're seeing all these African Americans wearing African garb, or if they're not wearing African garb, they're dressed up. Okay, people said they can hear me. So it was a fantastic, fantastic event. You know, they had some technical difficulties, which was beyond their control. Didn't have anything to do with them, but they worked it out. Okay, they worked it out, and you saw some of the video clips. I did a Facebook Live broadcast. You saw some of those videos. You saw Brittany Yardy. You saw this other beautiful sister, Nora Hana. Okay, so it was a fantastic event. Okay, so we got Brother Kaba next year. It's going to be bigger and better. Make sure you go to Atlanta for the Black Power Awards weekend. Okay, next year you'll hear more about it also. All right, so let's try to bring Brother Kaba on, invite on screen. Okay, let's see. Do we have him? Okay, stand by, Brother Kaba. Re-invite. Oh, okay. It says accepting and connecting. Okay. So he's accepting and connecting. All right, so we'll have him on just a minute here. Yeah, so it's a fantastic event to see African Americans, honor ourselves like this, the Black Power Awards weekend. Shout out to Brother DJ and everybody involved in the Black Power Awards. Something fantastic. All right, so we got them on. Hold on. All right, Brother Hotep, how you doing?
Hotep to my brother Imhotep. I'm doing excellent, brother. This is all right now?
Yeah, we got you, man. We got you.
Good.
All right. See, this is technology, brother.
I'm learning, man. This is the first time I've done this, so I'm learning. I didn't realize I needed to go on to Chrome. That was the challenge.
Yeah. Chrome works better for this, man. Yeah, Chrome works better for this. So we've got you on, and we're broadcasting on Facebook Live, our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, We're broadcasting on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. So, I wanted to bring you on tonight, brother, to talk about the event coming up this Friday on Black Friday, November 24th, 2017 at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. I was telling everybody we have a full day of programs. Okay, we have an African marketplace, and we have Professor Kaba Kamene coming in. We have director Rick Mathis coming in, and we're doing a screening and discussion of the new film that just came out October 13th, Black Friday Part 2, the Living Legacy Tour. The Black Friday Part 2, the Living Legacy Tour. And this film deals with some practical strategies for economic empowerment for African Americans, but it ties our global African history and legacy into economic empowerment. So, Professor Kaba, what were some of the things that you talked about in the film? Okay, because we're getting rave reviews from it. It actually just won an award at the Black Power Awards weekend this past Saturday in Atlanta. Okay, it won an award for best documentary. So, what were some of the things that you talked about in the film?
Well, brother Imhotep, we know what we have to do economically. Mm-hmm. The master plan has already been laid out. We have got our scholars, male and female, who are economists, who have presented us with these ideas. So where I'm coming from is a very practical concept. There are two things that I want to stress, and this is something that I definitely am going to stress when I get to Moortown. That's my name for Detroit.
Yes.
On Friday.
Right.
Number one is to realize that what the challenge is with us is not that we don't know what we have to do. Because we're doing it. We're doing it in two different areas. There's two phenomenally strong organizations in all of our neighborhoods.
Okay.
Very strong. The first one is the church.
Mm-hmm.
They are at a point where they have mega churches now. In other words, like multinational corporations.
Right.
There are churches that are financially well. There are pastors who travel the world in private airplanes or jets.
Mm-hmm.
So we know what we have to do, what we have to come to. And the second organization that really fundamentally is very strong are the gangs. In our communities. They function as an organization. whether it is drug fueled or however it may be, it is fueled by an organization that has a hierarchy that are responsible to each other, as the church does. And I'm not comparing the two. What I'm saying is that we have organizations of economic growth.
Right.
The challenge for the masses of our people is that we are in a very abusive relationship.
Yes.
You know, and it's something that we really have to look at psychologically. What's stopping us from doing this is that it is the same way when there is a couple, however the couple may be. I'm not going to say it's a man, a woman, or a woman on a man. I'm not going to say any of I'm not going to put any of the genders in place. But what I'm going to say is that when you have an abusive relationship, you have somebody who is always will always pay the price. And they will act in the interest of the person that's abusing them.
Right.
And that it seems like when those who are on the outside looking in, who are trying to demonstrate to them that you don't have to take this from them, that there is an answer, that there is a way that you could live better. There's a way that you could live a very healthy, psychologically, spiritually, mentally, and physical life. They tend to always go back to the abusive partner. And that's what we're suffering from. Every other culture has come into our community and set up shop. And those cultures don't have to apply for scholarships because Black folk are their scholarships. We send their children to school.
Right.
We pay for their bills. And they have no real regard for us as a people. Come in, give us your money, we'll give you whatever services we give you, and get out. And we keep going back. So what I think we have to do is look at this from a psychological perspective, because, of course, Dr. Anderson, Claude Anderson and George Frazier and, Reginald Lewis.
Right.
And our sisters who are phenomenal economists. So I'm not leaving the sisters out. But what I'm saying is that we have our people who have written books, who have established organizations, who have successfully worked the stock market. We know how to do it. We have people such as Dr. Cuddy Bacon out of Chicago, and we have Philippe Matthews out of Oakland, California, who are showing us digitalnomics and how we can do this. You've been talking about this for years. Since I've known you, you've been talking about this. So it's not that we don't know what we have to do. It's that we have to break through the psychological abusive relationship we have with those who mean us no good. So that on Friday, when the folk that come to this event they need to come with money in their pocket, prepared to spend money to begin to end this abusive relationship. And we as the business people, we who are doing business, respect our clients. It got nothing to do with being Black. It has to do with being good business people and giving our people a good business deal, so that when they walk away from us, they feel that they have it's a win-win situation for both people involved. And that becomes very important. The second thing I want to talk about, and then we can go back and forth, is the fact that the wealth of the future is in solar power. And we've got to begin educational programs that will assist from pre-kindergarten straight through to begin to develop a relationship with our children and the community and the school systems that we develop, an understanding of solar power. Because the beauty of solar power is everywhere where the sun shines the brightest, the people are the blackest. So it's like the Creator has given us the wealth in our own backyard and said, here, this is yours. The sun is yours. Solar power is the future wealth of the planet. So we've got to start to implement programs in our schools that develop an understanding towards solar power. And one of the curriculums that I developed starts with the Aten text of the 18th dynasty in Egypt, Kemet, and shows the power of the sun. And from there, this poem, this ode to the sun, then we can develop a curriculum that goes into geology, it goes into oceanography, it goes into chemistry, it goes into physics and math and language arts and all the subject areas that we teach. Solar power is the future wealth of the planet. And that's the second thing I'd like to stress to our, because we need to get very practical now. We ain't got no more time for pontification and theorizing the importance of what we're doing. Come with your money in your pocket, ready to spend it with your people that are going to be at the Charles H. Wright Museum.
Right. And not only that, brother. So, you know, I was looking at this article. I'm going to share two articles here, okay? And I'm going to get you to talk for a minute because I got to run and check a couple things here. But the final call, right? Finalcall.com. Everybody check out this article from finalcall.com. It's from November 14th, 2017. No justice, no profit, as not spending becomes weapon for justice. No justice, no profit. The phrase and the action as not spending becomes weapon for justice. And it talks about another boycott of Christmas, okay, but redirecting boycott of buying Christmas presents, going to white-owned businesses, corporations buying Christmas presents, but redirecting dollars to African-American-owned businesses, okay? And it talks about the protests going on in St. Louis, the killing of Lamar Smith, I think it was, Lamar Smith back in 2011, okay, by Officer Jason Shockley, Anthony Lamar Smith, by Officer Jason Shockley, and the protests around that as well, okay? So you're going to have, I know in Chicago, I know Sister Cassiopeia and the Black Mall, they have a Ujima marketplace going on for Black Friday, November 24th. You have this going on in different cities, okay? Talk about the importance of us kicking off that shopping season, making Black Friday a real Black Friday. Talk about that for a minute. I'll be right back.
You know, to answer and to go back to my original point as it relates to this abusive relationship that we're in, I know for a fact there is no question in my mind that if we were to implement a smart and intelligent way of spending our money, that we would shut down the communities that choose to abuse us and take advantage of us. But for as long as they see us developing concepts that relate to them, you can put your hands up all you want. But if after you put your hands up, you put your hand in your pocket and then you go into one of their stores, your hands up is meaningless. And so we have got to get very serious about what we're doing and understand the psychological dimensions of what we're facing as a people. And my proverb is, I don't boycott white business. I buy out Black business. See, if we change the paradigm of our thought process, and I know that it's out here. I know that we have the Black Mall that comes out of Chicago. I know we have Buy Black that comes out of Atlanta. I know that we have the Black business coming out of Las Vegas. We have all of the things that we need. This is what trips us up. It's not that we don't have the wherewithal. It's not that we don't have the money. We are caught up in a psychological abusive relationship that we just can't cut loose. Just like a person who's being abused in a relationship will always return back to the abuser, no matter what common sense the family or the friends make, or someone else who is interested in that person that would honor them as their partner. We still will go to the abuser. There's a toxic relationship between the person and that abuser, as opposed to, because common sense would tell you, if someone else comes into your life and tells you that they will respect you, they will honor you, they will love you, they will give you what you need, it would only make sense that you would leave the person that steps all over you, that disrespects you, disregards you, and abuses you. It would only make sense. So this thing has to be psychological in us, that we find a problem giving money to our people to go someplace and always want a break. Okay, when you go to McDonald's, you don't ask for a break when you supersize it. You pay. They tell you. You don't say, "Can you give me a break?" Ain't no love donation. When you go someplace, when you go to a restaurant, they don't seat everybody and say, "Just go ahead, sit down, and just give us what you can afford." You ain't going to no restaurant doing that. So we know how to act a certain way with people who abuse us, but we somehow get caught up when we get in relationships that are for us and are in our best interest. So for those who are ready to make this happen, for those who are at a point in your life where you want to make a difference. And I have to speak to the Black business people too. We have to respect our people.
Right.
They don't have to buy from us simply because we're Black. We need to do good business. We need to respect them. Yeah. We need to honor them when they come into our establishment or when they come up to our table, when it is time to greet them and respect them, and to make the type of relationship between them and us that they walk away, we are standing there with a win-win situation. So the idea is that if we just decided that for the holidays we were going to spend our money with people that look like us, we would shut America down. It's just like that. The same way if that person being abused say, you ain't going to abuse me anymore, I'm out of here. That relationship is shut down. It takes two to tango, so they say. So, Imhotep, and to those who are listening, somewhere along the line, we have to understand our problem is not that we don't know what to do. Our problem is not that we don't have the money to do it. The problem is that there is a psychological, post-traumatic stress disorder that keeps us in an abusive relationship with people who have no respect, no regard for us.
Right. So what happens is, you know, the foundation is African history and culture. The foundation is African history and culture, and it gives us our VIPs, our values, our interests, and our principles. As Professor James Small and Dr. Leonard Jeffries teachers, two of my teachers, and I was just on a panel discussion for the film Black Friday Part 2 this past Friday at the Black Power Awards weekend, and Professor James Small was on the panel along with Tony Browder. So what happens is, you know, Stephen Biko, one of our great South African freedom fighters, he said the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So we have to take our minds back. But the problem that a lot of people have, and we're not going to spend, you know, 100% of our dollars with African American owned businesses, but we can go from 3%, which we spend now, to 10%. We go from 3% to 10%, we can create between 500,000 to 1 million jobs very quickly. Okay. So it's very hard to fight white supremacy and try to seek acceptance and approval from white supremacy at the same time. And this is what a lot of people are conflicted with. Okay. This is why the film Black Friday is so important. This is why the Hidden Colors documentaries are so important. This is why 1804, the hidden history of Haiti, is so important. Okay. Because the Haitians won their freedom through guerrilla warfare. They inflicted guerrilla warfare upon the French and the Spanish and the British, who were their allies. We need to engage in economic guerrilla warfare. And this is a term I've coined, and I deal with this. I do a presentation called Redistributing the Pain. Redistributing the Pain, how African Americans historically fought back with economic boycotts and voting, you know, fall back against white supremacy with economic boycotts and voting, things like this. So in this article, and I want everybody to check out this article here, this deals with exactly with what's going on right now. And they're talking about redirecting dollars to our own businesses with during the Black Friday season. This is a way to kick it off. But they talk about some of the reasons why, which is extremely important, Professor Kaba. Once again, the name of this article is called No Justice, No Profit, as Not Spending Becomes Weapon for Justice. And they talk about the Black Bank movement that really kicked off February of 2016. And in 1 year, $50 million of African American owned dollars have been shifted to African American owned banks. But in St. Louis, they've had constant protests in St. Louis behind the killing of Anthony Lamar Smith, which took place in 2011, but the trial just took place, and Officer Jason Stockley was found not guilty. Okay, so back on November 2nd, 2017, you had religious leaders in St. Louis, and you have business leaders that called for targeted, sustained economic boycotts of certain businesses and to redirect African American dollars to African American owned businesses. And I just want to share a snippet of this article with you. It said, but community activists are calling for an economic boycott to turn up the heat on city officials. Pastor Dinah Tatman, Tatman, who is the CEO and founder of Greater New Vision Ministries, Inc., is a co-convener of the No Justice, No Profit campaign, discouraging residents from shopping this holiday season. Quote, she said, as of today, Thursday, November 2nd, 2017, we will be withdrawing our financial support from any entities that do not respect us or our purchasing power. Instead, we will be redistributing our monies to support and build our own businesses, schools, and communities. Okay, and she said this at a press conference on November 2nd, announcing this boycott. But what do you think about this?
I'm support. I'm support. And here's the other thing about Haiti and the revolution.
Yes.
One of the most important things to look at was you see, as a social studies teacher, there's something we have to be very clear about, and we get it very confused.
Yes.
And I used to teach my children in my classrooms, and I used to draw a box. And on one side, I put politics, and on the other side, I put economics. Okay?
Right.
And then on the other side, I put government systems. Communism is a political system. Socialism is the economic system of communism.
Okay, the economic system.
The political system that we are in is called a democracy. And the economic system is called capitalism. A lot of times we argue and we talk about the difference between communism and capitalism. You can't do that. That's arguing apples and oranges. You discuss socialism and capitalism. You talk communism and democracy. Because communism and democracy are the political systems. Socialism and capitalism are the economic systems. And what Haiti did was to return back to an African model of economics, and it is called democratic socialism. That is very important to understand as a people, because what Haiti was the first and only democratic society in the Western Hemisphere. Even to this day, their model is better than the United States, because the model that the United States has is argumentative, because as you can see in terms of what they're doing now, they are saying we're a democracy, but we're capitalists. But they're not capitalists, because it's not about the competition of the people, because all they do is, on the Democrats, or I should say the Democratic model is going to take the money of the government and place it in the building up of the people. What America is doing is taking the money collected by the people and putting it into corporations. And then they dare call corporations people. So once we understand what's actually going on, looking at the economic system, now I'm saying this because as a people, even though we are not a government as a government would be, we still can develop a democratic socialist system. But you see, I'm not talking about European or Eurasians' form of what they call socialism or communism, because then people were always crazy. They're the same people. It don't make a difference what you call it. Eurasians are all doing the same thing, but they're all covering up. They're all greedy. They're all looking out for themselves. As you can see what's happening. So what we have to do is we have to redefine these words. Social means people. Communism means community. So don't give me none of that I'm communist or socialist or any of that nonsense. That's nonsense. And what they're doing is playing with words to confuse people to understand that what the government of Haiti did was that they would collect by percentage of individual wealth a certain amount of money, and they would pool it as a government resource. A part of the money would go into the running of the government, and the other part of the money would be returned to the people through the impact of the government, but the government was the government of the people, which is interesting because that's what GOP means. But it was the government of the people, so that even though the government had the money, because this argument about should the government run things or is this supposed to be for the businesses? Well, quite frankly, the government. So there was no confusion between the two. So that what ran the government, the whole government itself was the government of the people. And according to your own personal wealth determined, but there were certain things that were absolutely free. And this is why there's so much on healthcare, because all the Affordable Care Act did was to study the model of Cuba and apply it to America, where everybody has a right to get sick and everybody has a right to get care. This is all, these are all lies and untruths. But let's get back to the real deal. We have to start spending money amongst ourselves, unashamedly and unapologetically. We have to start to look at the fact that I'm not saying I'm going to boycott white business. And as you rightly said, there will always be businesses of European, Asian descent that we will do business with because they are selling products that we need that we're not in the business of. But where we see we're not, we should start to get into. But in the meantime, where we are, we should start to spend money with our own people. And if we don't, then Brother Imhotep, we deserve what we get.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line to me.
And see, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, is a perfect time of the year to really kick that off because people are programmed to spend money, to look for deals. So across the country in African American communities, we should have these Ujima marketplaces or African marketplaces set up with African American vendors for you to go and circulate your dollars. This is what we're doing at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit. Friday, November 24th, we have a whole program. So we have the African Marketplace, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay. It's free and open to the public. If you go to the shopping malls, go here first. Okay, don't go spend all your money out in the suburbs, then come with just $10. Come here first, then go to the shopping malls if you have to. Okay, but we have a program. We have African dance. We have a program for children, like crafts and things like this for the children. And then at 2 p.m., we're going to do the screening of the new documentary, Black Friday, the Living Legacy World Tour. I'm featured in the film. Professor Kaba Kamene is featured in there. We have Professor Griff is in there, Chuck D from Public Enemy, a lot of people, Dr. Boyce Watkins. And we have director Rick Mathis, who will be at the museum as well. We're going to show the film. Then we're going to do a panel discussion with myself, Rick Mathis, Professor Kaba Kamene, and we have two bad sisters who are financial wizards. Financial wizards. We have Gail Perry Mason, who's a legend in the financial world. Gail Perry Mason, African American woman, and she's also an author as well. I think she's a VP at Oppenheimer, and we also have Kathy Collin as well, who's another bad sister when it comes to the financial world as well. Okay, so we have some feminine energy that we're bringing to the panel discussion also. I posted this article here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, from the Final Call, finalcall.com. This article is from November 14th, 2017. It's called No Justice, No Profit, as Not Spending Becomes Weapon for Justice. No justice, no profit, as not spending becomes weapon for justice. But they're talking about redistributing the pain through economic withdrawal and redirecting dollars to African-American owned businesses. And they're talking about the protests and the economic withdrawal that's taking place right now in St. Louis that was declared November 2nd, 2017. Now, one of the things that I think is extremely important, Professor Kaba, and you can talk some more about this because you've taught history at the college level, is that when our brothers and sisters have economic boycotts in a particular city, economic withdrawal strategies in a particular city, for instance, some of the businesses they're talking about boycotting are Target, the national department store, the retail chain Target, Burger King, Shell gas stations, the Gap, the clothing retailer, the Gap, when they have these economic withdrawal strategies in a particular city, African Americans across the country should impose economic withdrawal strategies on those same corporations, on those same businesses across the country. Okay, what are your thoughts on that, and possibly tie that into the civil rights movement also?
In fact, I was just thinking about that right now. And I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about where Dr. King was heading towards the end of his life with the Poor People's Campaign, and
Right.
where he was developing concepts. When I have visited colleges like the University of Virginia, there was an organization called Rise Up that invited me out to speak. And as I was talking about this economic piece, I said, we like to march, but what about if we were to decide that we were going to put $20 in our pocket, and that we would march to the nearest African-American owned store and spend our money there. And what the students did was they did it. They call it the Power March. Imagine if this next so-called rights movement, whatever we want to call it, we can call it economic rights. We can see, because civil rights, it don't mean a thing. You can tell by what's happening in America today that the civil rights, as it relates to law, Malcolm was correct. It's about human rights. Human rights breaks down civil rights, but civil rights does not break down human rights. And it's obvious that with all the things that have been done for over the last 50 years, that it's all being repealed within a year. It's obvious that they meant nothing from the first place.
Well, the other thing is that we have to understand that gains that you make, whether it's legal gains, whether it's economic gains, whether it's gains in education, etc., you have to protect those gains also. And this is something that this last election cycle, this is something that a lot of people didn't understand. See, there were policies that were on the ballot from President Obama that were beneficial for us, but we didn't know it. And now those policies are being reversed. There have been over 100 policy reversals that Trump has instituted. This is the 307th day of the Trump regime. There have been over 100 policy reversals, and many of these policies were beneficial for us, but we didn't even know that they existed. For instance, most people don't know that the U.S. prison population is the lowest it's been in 20 years. It's not 2.3 million. It's down to 1.53 million as of December 2015. If you read the December 2016 Department of Justice report, but a lot of this had to do with policies coming from President Obama, coming from his Department of Justice, and policies at the state level. This is being reversed now. But when you don't have, when you have bad information, you make bad decisions. So there were these policies that were on the ballot in jeopardy of being reversed, like President Obama's curtailing of the use of privatized prisons and not renewing the contracts of 12 privatized prisons for federal prisoners. Okay, that's been reversed by Trump. All right, so this is what happens. I talk about how elections have consequences, and this is something that many of our people don't understand. Talk about that.
Well, with that in mind, Brother Imhotep, when human rights, where we have to be on guard all the time for people not to take away our human rights. As a people, you have to understand you're dealing with a tyrannical system.
Yes.
It's tyranny, cosmic and human tyranny, to treat a human being this way, which goes back to my concept of the abusive relationship. So what do you do when this happens? You have to hit them without jeopardizing your own humanity, which is their money.
Correct.
Absolutely. That is where you strike them. You don't, you don't have to put your hands up. You don't have to march. If you just started marching to African-American owned stores consciously, and one thing you can do is when you go home, I know I saw a commercial, but it's somewhat like this. If you just put your change that you got that day into a jar, if you just put, like if you break a $20 bill, put your singles and your fives, put it away. And at the end of the month, what
Right.
you've collected, go out and spend what you've saved through your change and through your singles and your $5 bills with someone that looks like you. Start there.
Absolutely.
Start to sacrifice those $1 bills, those $5 bills, and your change. Sacrifice that. Make that what you spend with your people. Begin there. Of course, we want the 20s and the 50s, but let's start realistically somewhere with a plan.
Start with 10%. Start with 10. Make a list of what you make a list of the businesses that you spend money with on a monthly basis, and shift 10% of that disposable income to African American owned businesses. Right. Okay, shift 10%.
Now that can be done. That's real.
Oh, absolutely. That's realistic. Now with the marching, I take a little different approach with it. Okay. Mass protest has its purpose, right? Mass protest has its purpose. The purpose of mass protest is not to solve the problem, it's to draw attention to the problem, to inform people that the problem exists, to galvanize support around your agenda, to work people into your agenda and move to the next step. Mass protest has its purpose. The problem comes when people think that marching is the solution to the problem, or they think that the way we got the Civil Rights Act was because we marched. Now, April 3rd, 1968, Dr. King gave his last speech. It's called I've Been to the Mountaintop in Memphis, Tennessee. And he said that we have to always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. He said we have to always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. What this means is, number one, the power is in the targeted, sustained economic withdrawal strategies, number one. But he's saying that when you have mass protests, you have to have the targeted, sustained economic withdrawal strategies. And this is what's oftentimes missing when you have these marches. Okay, they can work together. Now, at the end of that march, they need to march themselves on down to Black-owned businesses and buy them out also. And this is something that I see that's missing with a lot of the marches. Okay, the marches can be used to galvanize support for African-American owned businesses and direct, because you have all this energy. You got 1,000 people together. Redirect that energy to African-American owned businesses and take your white friends with you too. Because if white people are out there protesting saying Black Lives Matter, their dollars matter to Black-owned businesses. Take your white friends with you also. Okay. What do you think about that, brother?
I think that's what we have to do. March. If you want to march, it has to be economic, because all this other stuff is just show. Yeah. And it leads just to another end. It will allow you to feel some form of redemption for those moments, but it'll go away. And so I think that we have to have, just practical things that we do, such as taking a portion of your money, earmark it, and know exactly where you're going. In St. Louis in June, they did this. There was a sister that contacted me from St. Louis, and she explained to me that they were going to march 100 strong. And they were going, because I had spoken in St. Louis, and she said that she thought that was a great idea. And that, so what she decided to do sometime in June 23rd, somewhere in there, that they would march to an African-American owned business. Now, what's good about that is that African-American owned businesses, when you have a whole bunch of folk that'll come to your place, then the businesses are going to make sure that they give good deals to the community when they can get a certain amount of money, and they will also attempt to get the interest of those groups to come to their store, which creates trade and communication within the community. But on a larger scale, as we look down the road educationally, solar power is the wealth. A civilization is only as powerful as its source of energy. And as Michio Kaku, the Japanese scientist, tells us that he's a theoretical scientist in hyperspace. He has broken down that there are 4 types of energy systems. That is one that depends on the Earth, one that depends on the sun, one that depends on the galaxy, and one that depends on the cosmos. Our ancestors in Kemet, in Egypt, were drawing from the sun, and they were on their way to drawing power from the galaxy. That is carved in on the walls of Kemet. That's how we have deciphered and analyzed their science. We know the pyramids. Wow. We know that the Hymn to Aten are all exposés on the power of the sun and the energy that is derived on the earth from the sun, including our own very existence. So they were aware of solar power, and they built their technology around solar power. But when the Greeks and Romans came in and defiled the temples, they never understood what our ancestors were doing. So they returned the human family back to the earth for the sources of power, such as what we now have, fossil fuels, and or the things that we depend on as it relates to the earth, gas, energy, and all that sort of stuff. Now, what the future generation is going to do is they're going to learn concepts such as fusion, where you fuse the atoms, not fission, which separates the nucleus. When we get that, fusion is clean energy, and the sun is all the time. Even at nighttime, somewhere the sun is shining. So when people say, well, if you want to derive your power from solar power, what are you going to do at nighttime? Well, the thing is, you got satellites that can derive power from the sun at nighttime. So that we have got to change the paradigm of our thinking. And I'm telling you that when we get to the point where we understand solar power, there will be no alien. The idea of the wealth that we will have will not be judged by million or trillion or zillion or billion. They're going to be able to have an alien at the end of your name, because your energy is going to be so ever present. Your wealth is going at the same rate system is, that there is no alien you're going to put on your name. I'm talking about our ancestors. That's where their wealth came from. And I'm telling us as a people, if we just focus on each other, and if we just begin to understand what wealth is, and begin to get our children online to study these subject areas in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, with the backup of language arts and an understanding of the social sciences. This is what our educational systems that we're going to develop have to start to do, Brother Imhotep. This is the future.
Absolutely.
Solar power is the future wealth of the world. And like I said, the beauty of it is that the places where the sun shines the brightest, the people are the blackest.
Right. Hey, do me a favor, turn the volume on your computer down a little bit, because I'm getting some feedback. Turn down
How's
a little
that,
bit.
man?
Okay. Testing. I think that's better. Okay. And right now, there's a right now there is you have 4 million available jobs right now in the STEM fields. Okay. Now, of course, we want to create businesses around the various STEM careers, but somebody may start out working for a company to gain experience in the STEM field and then break off and start their own business. But there are 4 million available jobs right now in the STEM fields. A lot of people don't know this: science, technology, engineering, and math. Going back to March of 2017, I talked about this on my radio show. Verizon had a campaign called "We Need More." We need more, and they had prominent athletes like LeBron James, and Drew Brees, saying that we don't need more LeBron Jameses. We don't need more athletes. Okay, we need more scientists. We need more doctors. And they talked about all the different types of careers you can have in the STEM fields. And they would ask the children, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say, oh, I want to be a singer. I want to be a basketball player, football player. Then they showed them the different careers, and they showed them how much you make in these different careers: $150,000 a year, $90,000 a year, $125,000 a year. And the children were blown away by this, right? So these are, I talked about how we need to expose our children to these possibilities, because you can make that type of money for the next 20, 30 years. Whereas the average career in the NBA is only 5 seasons. The average career in the NFL is about 3.7 seasons. Okay. So These are things that we can do. People need to Google "We Need More" and check out. I think the website is weneedmore.com, because they have information on how to get your children started in the STEM fields. They have information on the different types of careers, what type of jobs you can have in these careers, the earning potential, and the type of education you need for the, to go into these type of careers. But when children are exposed to all these different possibilities, 3D animators, and and now you have 3D printing that is becoming more and more popular. I mean, the sky's the limit. Okay. But that is the future that African Americans really need to tap into, STEM fields. And then you add the AN, which is arts, which is STEAM. Okay. This really opens things up. Let me go back to this quickly here. We talked about the marching. We talked about the redirecting dollars to African American owned businesses. I posted this article on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. It's from the Final Call. And we know back in 2015, Minister Louis Farrakhan called for an economic boycott of Christmas. And he said, we're not going to boycott Jesus, but we're going to boycott the Christmas shopping season. And once again, the name of this article is "No Justice, No Profit, as Not Spending Becomes Weapon for Justice." And if we look at this again, it says that the No Justice, No Profit boycott, this comes out of St. Louis, includes Target, U.S. Bank, Burger King, Shell, grocery chain Schnucks, Gap Inc., Goldman Sachs, okay, which is an investment banking house, and the St. Louis Galleria Mall. Instead of shopping at these businesses, organizers are directing supporters to the website nojusticenопроfit.us, nojusticenопроfit.us, for a list of Black banks, websites, and storefronts to patronize instead. So this is something that's very organized. And what I explain to people is, if you tell people don't shop at this store, you have to give people an alternative to shop at and redirect them to African American owned businesses. What do you think about a strategy like this, brother?
I think that's what we have to do. We basically just have to begin. The bottom line is to begin to take a certain amount of our money in the beginning and direct it towards our people.
Absolutely.
We have to actively look, and activities like this at the Charles H. Wright Museum is an example. I remember, what was it, last summer when I was there, and they had the market. Remember, I saw you there. You had your, okay, remember that? It was in the summertime. I remember it was
that's
warm.
when we brought, now you came when we had Professor James Small, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and Dr. Wade Nobles.
Yes, that was in March. Yeah. That was honoring Dr. Wade Nobles and the book, and Dr. Leonard Jeffries and James Small. This was in the summertime. Okay. And okay.
So I'm gonna play this clip in just a minute, man. But this goes into exactly what we're talking about. This is technology, so I can play a YouTube video while they watch this also. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, what happened in the summertime? There is a brother there that has an ice cream.
Oh yeah.
That he uses
Paul
nuts.
Taylor. I think that's Paul Taylor.
Okay. Now that ice cream was very good.
Yes.
It was very tasty. Different flavors.
Right.
And when I tasted it, it was a good ice cream. Well, it really wasn't ice cream. It was nut cream. And it was very healthy. So what I'm saying is that, I came in contact with that through the Charles Wright Museum when there was the African American celebration that summer. And so having events like this at the Charles Wright Museum, and I'm sure that these happen other places around this season. So if we looked at the season from Black Friday to Kwanzaa and developed our own celebrations of the ways in which we could do that, this is one of the feasible things to be done, because it's being done. And I'll be there on Friday, and this event will occur, and all all of the people that have all of the different types of things to sell will be there.
Absolutely. African American
And I've seen the same thing in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of vendors in Grand Rapids when I visited Grand Rapids in June.
Right.
So what we're talking about is a real plan that is supported by concepts such as the one that you've cited through the final call with the Honorable Louis Farrakhan describing how we can do it.
Absolutely.
But again, we have to understand that abusive relationship.
Right.
Because once we understand that, then we can take our own initiative to do what we have to do for our people. And that way, everything would work within our favor.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to play this clip here. This is 2 minutes and 5 seconds. This is Carrie Cadet. Carrie Cadet. This is from December 26, 2017. Okay. Carrie Cadet is a comedian in the Brooklyn area, but she organized for Kwanzaa. She organized what was called a Kwanzaa crawl, a Kwanzaa crawl. She took the concept of cash mobbing, okay, where a group of people go support a business. She took the concept of cash mobbing and merged it with Kwanzaa to reintroduce Kwanzaa to millennials and to make Kwanzaa cool again, to make being black cool again. Okay, this plays right into what we're talking about. Let me share this clip.
Organizer of Kwanzaa Crawl and the founder of Operation Mobilize, which is the organization that put this whole thing together. We put together the whole entire event in 3 weeks with 17 bars, 16 different teams and team leaders. We haven't been sleeping. It's a very small team. It's like 2.5 of us, 3 of us. As we are always looking for ways to bring people and the community together. We're always looking to try to find ways for people to take an active role in the things that happen in the community. So this is just another one of our initiatives. We think it's important that we support the small Black-owned businesses that support us, that hire us, that give us jobs. And it's time that we take a part and celebrate our community while we can and appreciate it. It's super important to tie it with Kwanzaa because Kwanzaa is all about cooperative economics and collective work and bringing people together under unity. So this crawl is actually embodies all 7 principles of Kwanzaa. It has a whole bunch of people coming together for one purpose on one day, unifying for one goal. It has all the business owners pitching together, cooperative economics. We're here to support you, and we're doing the work creatively with Kwanzaa Crawl. Our goal for Kwanzaa Crawl is actually to have it in so many cities across the country. So we want to have it in Harlem, in the Bronx, in DC, in Houston, in Dallas, in Chicago. We want to bring Kwanzaa Crawl to towns everywhere. I think that it will help the Brooklyn community just by giving people a sense of pride in where they come from and when they live. People are really excited to just come out here and do something positive. We found a cool way to do it. So people are excited to do that. And I hope that it starts a conversation that continues, that people know and are conscious to support Black, support small-owned business, buy locally. And this is how we started now. I think starting the year off this way is a really good way to kick off 2017 with that thought and purpose in mind. Yeah, Operation Mobilize was founded out of a need to do something. We are tired of being shot. We're tired of police brutality. We are tired of complaining. We're tired of protesting. So one of the many ways in which Operation Mobilize aims to get people together is to mobilize them to do something. And this is one of these things. Be mobile, do something, learn who your congressmen are, learn who your local assemblymen are. They're all out here. They're all supporting. I know them by name now. I did it last year. This is cool. This is dope. And hopefully we can start the trend in cities all across America.
Okay, so that's what they did, man. They organized in 3 weeks, right? In 3 weeks, they were able to organize about 1,600 people to go support 17 African-American owned businesses. She said there's about 3 people were able to organize this in 3 weeks. Okay, now that's putting the theory into actual practical application and using Kwanzaa to teach the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, the Nguzo Saba, man. Have you seen that before?
No, brother. That's the first time I've seen it. And that's right down the block from me, man.
Yes. That's something powerful that they did. But this is something that African-American owned churches can do across the country every month. We don't have to wait till Kwanzaa comes once a year to do this. We should do this for Kwanzaa, but we can do something around Dr. King's birthday, Malcolm X's birthday, Marcus Garvey's birthday. I mean, this is something powerful. Now, she said something very important. She said that the Congress people were out there. The politicians were out there because when they see that you can mobilize that many people,
that's right.
They're coming.
That's right.
Because they want their vote.
Talk
about that. Yes.
That's how it works.
Yes.
You know, Claude Anderson talks about it.
Yes.
You know? And George Fraser talks about the power of economics as it relates to politics.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a unified force of economics,
mm-hmm.
You will control what the police force does in your community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can leverage your
hand.
politics. You leverage your politics to employ your own people, and you leverage that to gain control. You leverage your economics to gain control of your politics, gain control of the police force, the media, the education system, things like this. You do this. You know, Dr. Claude Anderson is one of my teachers. I was just with Dr. Claude Anderson 2 Saturdays ago in Chicago. He was speaking at the was it the Cultural Center, Harold Washington Cultural Center. He's talking about his new book, The Black American Reader. Actually, here's an advanced copy of his book his wife sent me to review. A Black History Reader, 101 questions you never thought to ask. He said this is his last book. This is his most recent book. You can order this from powernomics.com by Dr. Claude Anderson. And so I was just with him. He's one of my teachers a couple of weeks ago. So this is something that's practical, brother. And I want people to understand, because a lot of times people come with all these theories and things like this, right? And you got to wait for all the stars to line up and you need 1 million people to make, to do. No. 3 people organized this.
Yeah.
Okay. And most of those businesses were normally closed on Monday. So December 2016, Kwanzaa fell on a Monday.
Yeah.
And they were able to direct thousands of businesses to African American owned businesses like that. That's something extremely powerful, and it's practical.
Yes.
It's doable.
Yes.
Now,
and imagine a church. Imagine a church whose congregation goes or invites a business person to come in, whatever it may be that business has, invite them into a Sunday program, and the church, everybody in the church purchases whatever that individual has.
Right.
You know how many churches that we have? How many mosques?
Yes.
And that can begin a process. It's very straightforward. And so it's important that we understand. But you see, it's the abusive relationship. It's the toxic relationship that we have that keeps us going back to these stores to purchase things. No matter how they treat us, we still go back.
That mistreat us. Yes.
I have never seen a soul food restaurant in any Chinatown I've ever been in. And it's not that Chinese people may not like black people. It's that they would not go to their restaurant.
Right.
That's how they'd have to close down.
Right. Exactly.
So that it's not that you have to dislike somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It's that you just have to love yourself and see the advantage when you own the stores in your neighborhoods.
Right.
And so that like we always say, when the dollar at the end of the day, Malcolm said it, leaves your community, then everything that revolves in that community, including the way in which the police interact with the inhabitants of that community, is going to reflect back. So that we have got to change this toxic relationship that we have and make people respect us.
Absolutely. And oftentimes you teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
This is the other thing that we have to understand. You teach people how to treat you. So if we are disrespecting our women, calling our women out of their names, and this is why we have to redirect the pain to redistribute the pain to companies that put out negative hip hop, because negative hip hop is designed to destroy the minds and the potential of African American youth. Okay, this is the purpose of it. This is what they're doing. Okay, and the other thing is that they know that if they can destroy the minds of African American youth, this reduces the competition for scarce wealth, power, and resources, and this reduces the ability of our children to compete with their children for scarce wealth, power, and resources. Okay, because I grew up listening to conscious hip hop. I grew up listening to Public Enemy, and Professor Griff and Arrested Development, things like this. And that type of music, man, made us want to go to college. That we had the TV show A Different World. That type of music taught us to have a global political perspective, to look at what was going on in South Africa with apartheid and things like this, right? And it elevated our conscious level. Okay, well, much of the negative hip hop that our children are being exposed to is promoting promiscuity, promoting sex with multiple people, promoting alcohol usage, drugs, violence, things like this. So Reverend Al Sharpton had an idea a few years ago of getting city employees in certain states. He wanted to start with New York to withdraw pension fund dollars from entertainment companies that put out negative hip hop. Okay, withdraw pension fund dollars from entertainment companies that put out negative hip hop, and this was a campaign he had going, but I don't think it really went anywhere. But what happened back in June, I don't know if you heard about this, brother, but what happened back in June, New York Daily News has an article about this, and Reverend Al Sharpton did a segment on Politics Nation on MSNBC about this. City employees in the city of New York in June withdrew $48 million in pension fund dollars from 3 privatized prisons. Okay, Core Civic, Geo Group, and G4S, because they did not want to support privatized prisons. They redistributed the pain. This is not theory. This is what actually happened. People need to check out this article from New York Daily News. NYC, New York City, NYC pension fund to back out of investments in private prisons. And this is what they actually did. They redistributed the pain. Okay. And Core Civic used to be Corrections Corporation of America, which is the largest owner operator of privatized prisons in the country. So they're saying you may have privatized prisons, but you're not going to do it with our money. And what a lot of people don't know is a lot of people are invested in privatized prisons and gun manufacturers and don't know it because it's through their pension fund dollars and 401k dollars. Okay. Did you hear about this case here?
Yes. And a lot of the city pensions were involved in it.
Go ahead. Say that again.
A lot of the city pensions were involved in it.
Absolutely.
And this goes back to the days of South Africa.
Exactly.
And what was going on back then. If you want to hit them, you hit them with the money.
Absolutely. Redistribute the pain.
That's it. That's what will change the structure of things.
Right.
And we've got to become sophisticated and knowledgeable about these various things that can be done. Just the way it looks for Black people to do business with Black people would change the landscape of America. Just the visual of it.
Right. Absolutely. Redistribute the pain. Once again, those are watching on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm going to post a link here on the thread of the broadcast. That article, once again, is from New York Daily News. And there were other entities that had articles about this one, but this one here is from New York Daily News, and it's called NYC Pension Fund to Back Out of Investments in Private Prisons. But they actually did it, and the teachers in California did something like this back in 2012. Okay, they found out that a portion of their $155 billion pension fund was invested in gun manufacturers, Smith & Wesson, Rutgers, and one other one. And the third gun manufacturer, they were the manufacturers of the Bushmaster AR-15 assault rifle that was used in the Sandy Hook shooting. Okay, well, they divested millions of dollars from these 3 gun manufacturers. All right, this is another example. So this is something that African Americans can do all across the country. Look and see where your pension fund dollars are invested. Look and see where your 401k dollars are invested. This is not theory. These are actual cases that actually happened. These, you see, and there's more. There are multiple strategies, Brother Kaba, to redistribute the pain. Doesn't mean just standing in front of a business with a picket sign. Okay, there are multiple strategies to redistribute the pain. Go ahead and comment on that, and we're going to wrap up here in a couple minutes.
Well, that becomes the important thing, my brother. We've laid this out.
Yes.
You know, and the common sense approach to what it is that we have to do is to, again, understand what it is. What is it that stops us from doing this? What is it that stops us from being willing to do this? You know, and I guess at a certain point in time and in history, like Colin Kaepernick, you decide you're going to take a knee.
Right.
As Muhammad Ali in the visual behind you. I grew up, that was my generation. When Muhammad Ali was willing to give up the 3 most important years of his physical life.
Absolutely.
To make a point. And everybody was on his case, like they're talking about Colin Kaepernick, but Muhammad Ali became one of the most famous human beings on the planet.
Exactly.
Because of his strength and his desire to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And it goes to show the power of the Nation of Islam and people such as Malcolm X and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in his life that gave him direction because he had the power. And Colin Kaepernick has also done the same thing. And each and every one of us, if we honor Colin Kaepernick and Muhammad Ali, each and every one of us has to be as courageous and be willing to give up something. Colin Kaepernick gave up his job. He gave up his money to make a statement. So what are they asking us to do? What is it that we have to do as individuals? And we're not being asked to do much except to support our own people. And in so doing, Colin Kaepernick would not be in this position because we would have all rallied around him with the power economically to make a difference. And so we've got to start looking at our minds and how our minds are functioning because it's out here. The information is here. The ability to do it is here. The money is in our pocket to do it. But what is stopping us from actually doing it? It has to be psychological, and it has to be an abusive relationship.
Right. Well, we have to take our minds back once again. You know, we have to take our minds back. You know, what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So we have to have that strong foundation. We have to have a synthesis between African history and culture, economic empowerment, and political empowerment. They work together. This is something that Dr. Leonard Jeffries talks about. They work together. It's not an either or.
That's right.
Okay. That's right. A lot of us want to learn metal netter and become super metaphysical, spiritual, and things like this. And then they're broke as hell.
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense to me. You studying for 20, 30 years to be broke as hell? That don't make sense to me. I'm sorry. I mean, so they all work together, and we have to understand there's nothing wrong with creating wealth. It's nothing sinful. It's how you do it. If you robbing and stealing from people, that's one thing. It's nothing. We many of us have to get out of the mentality thinking that it's something sinful, that we have to be poor to be spiritual or to be closer to the creator. No, that's something taught to us by Europeans to keep us from competing for scarce wealth pound resources. So I posted the link in Crowdcast. You have the link to your website, and you talk about your free e-course and study guide. Talk about that for a minute, because I want everybody to download this.
Yeah, my next book is titled Spirituality Before Religions, where I'm analyzing ancient Kemetic texts, African writings. And I am talking about the original thought process and philosophy that Africans had, that they carved on the walls of the pyramid texts, and what they wrote on papyri that developed the later religions from A to Z. That would come into existence. And what I want us to do is to look at this spiritual system. That's a beautiful system. I don't have a new religion, so I'm not trying to get anybody to leave their religion to become anything other than what they are. What I am saying is that whatever religion you happen to belong to, understand that at the base of that religion is an African thought system. You know, spirituality is your way of life. Religion religion is the way you express your spirituality, and your ritual and your ceremony is how you perform your way of life. You know, science is the study of nature, and nature is the essence of the creator. And so the book that I'm developing it's been taking me a very long time to do it because of the nature of the specificity that I'm trying to get to understand it and to be careful as I develop it. And one of the chapters in this book is talking about we're looking at Egyptian history all wrong from my perspective. I don't think we should even deal with Egyptian history. I think all of that is Cushitic history. And why we call it Egyptian is because Eurasians came into Africa and observed and stole what we had, and then they started the Old Kingdom. What I'm saying is the Old Kingdom is only a manifestation of what came out of the Sudan or Nubia, out of Congo. I'm saying that it's a Cushitic system.
And Kush was the region. Kush was a region.
Yes, Kush was a region. It was a people, and it was a way of life that went from northern Kenya to the southern part of Egypt, or Kemet. And that the concept of Egypt is a Eurasian term that we've adopted through Egyptology. I'm saying it's not about an Egyptian dynasty system. I am saying that it's a Cushitic dynasty system. And so that we've got to, again, it changes the paradigm of the way in which we're looking at ourselves. But one of the chapters in this book talks about this Cushitic kingdom and how we have to change around, because when we can change around who were the actual people that developed what we call Egyptian civilization, then we'll understand that all the writings that came out of Kemet came from African people. And at that point, we can then interpret Christianity. See, I don't have any problem with the Bible. I don't have a problem with the Quran or the Torah. I have a problem with its interpretation. And we're interpreting it from a Eurasian perspective as opposed to an African perspective, which would allow us to understand the fact that all religions, as Dr. Ben taught us, come from Egypt on the walls and on the papyri. So this study guide gives you the books that I've used. It opens up a way of looking at spirituality, because we use that word too much without defining it. But what's the science behind it? I don't have faith. I don't have a belief system. I know God, because each and every one of us is God having a human experience. I watched God brush his teeth this morning. I watched God wash his face and prepare himself for the day, just as women are also gods that are walking the earth. So we have got to change the paradigm. So my study guide basically deals with an overview of the book and helps us understand exactly where I'm going with this book, so that when the book comes out, it'll be easy reading for the community. And also my study guide is my lifelong outline on how we can approach the study of our history and culture in a proactive way, that we can become productive citizens of the planet and to understand what it is that we actually can do on this planet. And again, all this knowledge means nothing if you don't have economic foundations in it.
Exactly. Speaking of economics, I just want to show this quickly and then we'll get out of here. Okay, share this. Okay. So in a lot of my presentations, most people know my degrees in business administration with a major in marketing. I've taught entrepreneurship for about 8 or 9 years. I've done business consulting for 7 years. Managed a company where we had government contracts. We had contracts, janitorial service contracts at the county level. We had training contracts with the state of Michigan. And also served on the committee to rewrite Executive Order 22, which was laws dealing with policies dealing with the hiring of African Americans on construction jobs in Kwame Kilpatrick's administration. I didn't work for the city. I didn't even vote for Kwame either time, but I was managing a construction trades program through the company that I worked for, and we had a partnership with a local community college. So through my expert maneuvering, we connected with the city of Detroit, right? So this is something that I show people in some of my presentations, and it's in the article that I wrote, because I write articles as well. Why does the African American dollar stay in the community only 6 hours, something like that? Don't get caught up on that statistic. But how to create 1 million jobs, right? The Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. Now, this is one of the top business schools in the country. One of the top business schools in the country, Kellogg School of Management. They did a study and they found that 500,000 to 1 million jobs could be created if 100,000 African American households with annual incomes of $75,000 or more spent just one out of every $10 with African American owned businesses. This is 10%. Okay. If 100,000 African American households with annual incomes of $75,000 or more just spent one out of every $10, 10% with African American owned businesses. Okay. If you read the article that I wrote, why is the lifespan of a dollar only 6 hours in the African American community? I talk about this study in there. You can read all of my articles at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If households with under $75,000 in annual income, if they spent one out of every $10, we could probably create 2 million jobs very quickly. Okay. This is something that's doable. Right now, we spend 3% of our dollars with our own businesses. Okay. We can very quickly go from 3% to 10%. This is something very doable. All right. So this is something extremely, extremely important, because, one of the good things under the President Barack Obama, the unemployment rate for African Americans was cut in half. Right. But we need to, and at the same time, and this is something that's talked about in the film that people are going to see Friday, Black Friday Part 2, African American women are creating jobs, are creating businesses at 6 times the national average. The fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs is African American women. Okay. But at the same time, it's not just creating more businesses. We have to redirect dollars to those businesses also. Otherwise, they're going to go out of business. Okay. And the rate that they're being created is outpacing the increase in us spending dollars with them. Okay. So overall, the average annual revenue of African American owned businesses has dropped to like about 76,000 because they're being created so quickly. Okay. But this is something people really need to check out. Go ahead and comment on that quickly, Brother Cobb, and then we're going to get out.
That last point that you made about sisters, here in New York City, we have a conference every year. I think it's in October. It's called Circle of Sisters.
Right.
Where sisters get together and they do some very, very serious business with each other, and other cultures come also who would like to get to work with these businesses. And what we find is that sisters are getting into every facet of life.
Absolutely.
Whether it be the sciences, computer science, teaching, all the areas that exist, sisters are now beginning to get a sense of entrepreneurial skills.
Yes.
And I'm not even going to say that they're beginning to get, they've always had. It's just that now they're professionalizing it in order to get sisters to work together. And brothers too did go to these conferences. This is happening.
Right.
And this is the other part that I'd like to say also, is that this ain't over till we win.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that this is happening. All we have to do is keep on keeping on. And what we have to begin to do is to get better at what we do. And all we have to continue to do, such as the Charles Wright event on Friday, is part of this process of what we're doing. Circle of Sisters is part of the process. Essence conference that they have is part of the process. And even the little things that are happening around the country that peoples of African descent are doing is helping do what we have to do. So I would like to leave on a positive note.
Absolutely.
Because while we're facing a lot of different things, at the same time, we are making it happen for ourselves. And I just look forward to those who are within the Detroit community, or if they come in wherever they may come from. I just look forward to having a deep conversation. And Brother Michael, I look forward to our panel discussion with all of the different people that will be there. And
Oh, it's
I
gonna.
know we're going to have a great time. It's time that we start doing this, and it's time that what's happening at the Charles Wright Museum flood the world, not just the country, but the world, so that we can start to
Absolutely.
develop and understand what it is that we have to do. And I just look forward to Friday, my brother.
Absolutely. Once again, his website is kabakamene.com, KABAKAMENE, kabakamene.com. You can download his study guide there. You can order his DVD lectures. And I think you have them on digital download also.
Yes, I have them rental for 99 cents. I have them where you can stream them for $2. Because, like what you're showing right here, man, technology is something else.
Absolutely.
And I always promise the community that when things get better for me, I would make it better for them.
Right.
So for those members of the community that the physical copy is $15 or $20, some of them may say, well, I'd rather stream it for $2.99, or I'd like to rent it for 99 cents. I have things that are no price, and I have some things that are of price. But we got to make business. We got to make this into a business.
Right. And then lastly, man, at the Black Power Wars weekend, I have to share this with you. We're gonna get out of here, man. You talked about earlier about us trying to always get a bargain or think that we should get something free from African American owned businesses. So they were live streaming the award ceremony, right? And it cost $29.99 to live stream the award ceremony. So you had people who were saying, "Oh, $29.99 is too much to pay to stream it. It should be free." Blah blah blah. And I said on some Facebook broadcast. King Simon was there. He broadcasted. Some other people were broadcasting. I said, "Look, you don't call Comcast and tell them that the cable service should be free. You go ahead and pay the cable service. You don't tell Sprint that their cell phone service should be free. You pay the bill each month. Okay. And if you don't pay it, they're going to cut it off." Now, it was an African-American owned business that was providing the actual live streaming service. All right. It was Black on Purpose TV. Okay. Brother Michael with Black on Purpose TV. He has African-American employees. They can't provide the service for free. Okay. It costs money to provide the service. He has employees that have to be paid because they have families to take care of. Okay. So, we also have to have a shift in our priorities. Okay. And I always say, why do Negroes buy what they want and beg for what they need? Why do Negroes buy what they want and beg for what they need? But, that really got to me, because here's an award show. You have an African-American owned business providing the service. And we can, on the one hand, say we should support our own businesses because they employ our own people, but then want everything free from the businesses. Where you think the money's coming from for them to pay their employees so their employees can take care of their families? Because the people who say that, when they go to work, they expect to get paid. They don't go to work for free. When they go to white people, they don't go to work for free. They expect to get paid. Okay. So it makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever, man. So that's something that we need to break free of. If you're going to ask somebody for something for free, go to white businesses and ask them for free, because they got more resources than our businesses use. Go get your reparations from them.
It goes back to the way our mind functions.
Right.
And this is part of this toxic relationship that we have.
Right.
It's something that has been inbred in our minds in the epigenetic system of our thought process. Mm-hmm. And so we have got to move through a process where we demonstrate our professionalism, that we're offering a service, that service is to be paid. Right. When folk wanted to see the Mayweather fight, they paid $99.
Is that crazy? That don't make sense. But to see a wife,
and they did. This is what they did. And so what we have to understand is that everybody not going to be on board in the beginning. If you want it free, then go to where you can get it free, but you don't get it free here. At the same time, those of us who are providing a service must have a professional attitude that brings it to the point where we represent ourselves well. So it's a two-way street. This is what business is: trade and communication.
Right.
And so we've just got to move forward with this, keep on doing what we're doing, love our people unconditionally. But like they say, this ain't personal. This is business.
This is business. And a lot of us, they're free things we offer. We have almost 800 audio podcasts of our radio shows that are free.
Oh, yes.
We're audio podcasts, and this one as well. We're broadcasting on Blog Talk Radio, on YouTube, on Facebook Live. I have articles that I write that are free. But we don't do this for the money, but it sure as hell takes money to do this. People don't understand.
Yeah. And it's good business, so that if you're doing good business in one area, then you can get the capital that allows you to do things for free.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
The more we can acquire wealth, the more that we can put other things, and that's what good business is.
Right. Exactly. And
this is just what we got to understand. We talk the world trade and commerce. Why are we tripping down? It has to be psychological.
Exactly. And this is what made, ancient Kemet, Ghana, Mali, this is what made them so powerful. The resources, the trade.
Yes.
It wasn't because they could read Metal Netter. People forget the economic portion of these nations.
Absolutely. And when you stop and think about it, Brother Mansa Musa, he broke the World Bank. He was so rich.
Yes.
In fact,
he gave away so much wealth.
There is no word for the amount of wealth that he had. There's no alien next to his name.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't exist for what he had and what he brought across the northern part of Africa into Egypt. He changed the entire way the world was looking.
Right.
We can do that again. And we're going to, because this ain't over till we win.
Absolutely. Well, look, we have the ad running on our Facebook fan page for 1804, the hidden history of Haiti. Professor Kaba Kamene is in the documentary. Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Wade Nobles, a lot of people in this film. Dr. Gerald Horn, who a lot of people are just finding out about. That's a brilliant historian.
Yes.
Dr. Gerald Horn. I met him a few months ago here at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. So you can order this from our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. For each copy you purchase, you get one of my presentations free with it as well. 1804, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Once again, Friday, November 24th. The program is 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, 315 East Warren Avenue. Go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information there, our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And also, we'll do the screening and discussion of Black Friday Part 2, featuring Professor Kaba Kamene and myself and Director Rick Mathis. That's from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the museum. We have the African Marketplace as well. Okay. They're also all day. And this is free and open to the public also. Okay. So, Brother Kaba, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. But this was great, man. We reached thousands of people with this broadcast. People can go back and watch this. And how can people email you if they want to bring you in to do a presentation for their group or organization, or to do a professional development workshop? How can they bring you in? And then also tell people about December 9th in Detroit also, because you're coming back to Detroit December 9th as well.
Exactly. A True Oracle Church.
True Oracle God Ministries, on State Fair in Detroit.
Yeah, we're going to do a two-day activity, Friday and Saturday. I believe it's the 9th and the 8th and the 9th. It's a Friday and Saturday.
Okay, I'll look at it quickly here. Go ahead.
And what we're going to do is what I've been asked to develop is to look at ancient boat building.
Ancient boat
building and the movement of Africans across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're doing with that is that we're going to show exactly how Africans could have been on the waters. It's my dates as I see it is December 8th, Friday, December 9th, which is Saturday.
Yep.
And then we're going to go into the presence of Africans in ancient America. And we're going to use the work of Dr. David Imhotep, going back in time. And we're going to focus on the particular Olmeca civilization that would have come through the Kushite Empire somewhere in the 700s BC. And we're going to touch also on the West African presence in America, dealing with the Malinke and the Songhai Empire, and tie all that with the Moors, because you can't separate these Africans. They're all interrelated with each other. And that's the other thing
And
I'm
Moors
trying to show the holisticness of our history and culture. So on the 8th and 9th, we're going to deal with some boat building from Chad. We're going to deal with ancient Kemites coming to America, going straight across West Africa. It's just going to be a 2-day seminar on developing and understanding. But most importantly, how do we teach this to our children when we're dealing with world history and American history? Boat building and the presence of Africans in America, December 8th, December 9th at the True Oracle. And if you want to reach out to me, if you'd like me to come and do this type of work in your community, I work with homeschoolers. I work with after-school programs, boards of education. You can contact me at Kamene777 at AOL.com. KAMENE 777 at AOL.com. And that way you just reach out. We'll talk and we'll see what we can do because this information has to get to our children. Every civilization is only as strong as the information that's transmitted to the children. And it becomes very important. Every great society is always focused on the children, taking who they are to the next level. It's like in music when you sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Well, you began with do, you ended with do, but the second do, you were at a higher octave. That's what we're trying to do with our children. We're do, they're do. But as we move through life, they should become better than who we are. Our job is to make them better than us.
Correct. To elevate the next generation should do better than the previous generation.
And that's just the way the society functions. That's what built the pyramids. That's what built civilizations. And when we stop doing that is when we regressed. That started with the Greeks and the Romans. We had a reprieve now about 710 when North Africans went into Spain and tried to teach them again. And they had that Renaissance. But by 1492, they couldn't handle it. And they just reverted back. And so now we have the bookmarks. We have the bookmarks of Western civilization. The first time they fell was called the fall of the Roman Empire. This time it's the fall of the Roman Empire. It started in 1492 and it ended with Donald Trump. And I don't care what happens in this civilization, family. They could go out and never be seen again. But are we as a people ready to develop an economic system, an educational system? Can we govern ourselves? Do we have the right relationships with our brothers and sisters? Do we have the proper legal system in place? Because you see, when tyranny is law, revolution is order. I'm talking about an intellectual revolution. That's why Gilbert Heron said that the revolution wouldn't be televised. Because what's happening on the street is not the revolution. That's the result of the revolution. Because the true revolution happened in your mind when you decided that you had enough and you weren't going to take it no more. And at what point are we going to get to the point where we're going to say, economically, we understand that economics is at the base of much of what we have to do. It is not the end all and be all, but it certainly is one of the founding points that Dr. Jeffrey says. Economics, politics, culture,
history and culture,
systems analysis.
Systems analysis.
Definitely.
You talked about the Moors. It's very quickly. It's very important for people to understand. The Moors were African people as well. Okay, the African. Now you're going to have the Tani Moors that are like some Europeans, but in general, the Moors were African people, and they're descendants of the Garamantes. As you talk about, we know the Phoenicians were descendants of the Garamantes as well. Is that correct? The Phoenicians.
Because Hannibal
was Garamantes.
But the Phoenicians weren't a people. Because on one side, where we call Lebanon today, you had Phoenicians that were dealing with the color purple. That's where Phoenish comes from. Phoenix comes from the idea of the color purple. They were merchants in tin and in purple. They were in Lebanon, but they were also in Carthage, which we today call Tunis.
Tunis or Carthage, which used to be called Carthage.
Carthage, or Dr. Ben called it Carthage.
Cardadas, because Hannibal Barca was Garamanti. He was descendants of those Garamanti. Yes.
All those North Africans, including a lot of the Kemites, and even the Africans that we call Libyans, were also. But you see, we can't understand it unless we look at it across the board culturally. We have to understand, long before 710, there was a Baticus. There was a black man, Baticus, that was in Spain. That was there 1200 BC.
Yeah, they were there over 1,000 years before. Africans were there over 1,000 years before they went in 711 AD. There's already an African presence there.
And Taharqa was already in Spain. He was part of the 25th dynasty.
Exactly. I think in Golden Age of the Moor, I think they talk about that in there. They talk about that African presence in Spain over 1,000 years before 711 AD.
The other thing is that you have to understand the kingdom of Numidia. That was a great nation in Morocco at the same time that Carthage was at its height. But to understand Carthage and Numidia, you have to understand that in the Mediterranean basin, that was a Cushitic kingdom. All in the Mediterranean basin, in the countries we call Greece. Long before the Eurasians came down and came into Rome, you had the Africans who were called the Etruscans. This is history. This is us. But when someone tells a perfect lie, the truth is unbelievable.
Exactly. And Kush, we're dealing with a region that Ta-Nehesi or Ta-Seti, what today we call Sudan. And then Kush, that would include Abyssinia, or what we call Ethiopia as well. Okay, so that's a region. Kush was a region as opposed to a country. Okay, is that
from northern Kenya to the southern portion of Kemet, which we might call Abu Simbel?
Yeah,
this was the African kingdom, and over time, these Africans moved north into what we today call Giza or Cairo, if you want to call it that.
Right.
Then they eventually moved up there when land was able, where their irrigation and technology was able to dump up land in the swamp area just south of the Delta.
Right.
And so once we understand that Africans were in this entire area.
Right.
But I'm doing research on West Africa. I just finished my 4th class on West Africa here in New York.
Right.
And there was the Japanese satellite is seeing the Tamanrasset River that's under the Sahara Desert.
The river,
that there's the arid humid phase and the arid human arid phase. And there came a point in time when the arid phase, about 5,000 BC, took over the humid phase. The evidence of it is the sand that we find in the eastern part of Africa can be found in a place called Cape Timorous off the coast of southern Mauritania. A few weeks ago, a hurricane lost its way and went over into Europe, and it went over London, and London reported that the heavens, the clouds, turned brown. When they examined what was in the clouds as it came down to the earth, it was the sand dunes from the Sahara.
Wow.
That was about a month ago.
Okay.
If you check out, London, the hurricane that came over London and Ireland, that the sky was brown. And the reason why the sky was brown is because it was sand that had been picked up in the hurricane. And instead of coming to America, it turned around and went to Europe.
Okay.
Now, that same thing that happened there is what made the wetland of the Tamanrasset River become what we today call the Sahara. The Japanese satellites looked down on the earth, and under the Sahara, they found the riverbeds.
Right, because the Sahara used to be a river. It used to be water there.
It was called the Tamanrasset River.
Tamanrasset River, yes.
Now, the other thing about that is that the Nile in the ancient world, what we don't see is that the Hapi River or the Nile River was connected to all of the major rivers through tributaries or lakes or whatever, so that there was a connection between the Hapi and the Congo. There was a connection between the Hapi, the Congo, and the Senegalese River, and the Niger River, and the Tamanrasset River. So Africans in the ancient world, just like you don't see the Tamanrasset River in North Africa, You don't see the rivers that connected to each other. So when Africans moved across Africa, they were traveling by the waters. They were all connected.
Right.
Even the Limpopo River down in southern Africa, they were connected.
Mm-hmm. And this is why you're going to see civilizations that are going to form around bodies of water, form around the river. And we see this with the Nile River. We see this with the Nile River and Nile Valley civilization. They had the water for the irrigation. They had the water to feed the animals, things like this. So you're going to see these civilizations. You're going to see them move up the Nile River. And you're going to see civilizations form around bodies of water. Okay, so that's important.
And the other piece is that here's what I want to end on.
Okay.
I don't use the term white supremacy anymore.
Yeah, I heard that.
I use the term white fragility.
Explain that.
Because the word white and supreme should never be mentioned in the same sentence.
Okay.
Again, going back to psychology, what we're looking at is a people who are very insecure and suffer from an inferiority complex.
Right.
And in order for them to feel better about themselves, they have to put everyone else down.
Correct.
And that is why the present number 45 that we have in the office is so important, because he's a living example of that psychology.
Right. Exactly.
And the more guns you have, the more afraid you are, the more fragile you are.
Correct.
The more violent you become, the more insecure you are.
Right.
So that what we have to do is change the entire dynamics of the way in which we're thinking of these words and how we use these words. Because we have to move forward in the mind. I've come to realize the epigenetics of the mind has really done a job on all of us, myself included. I still have those thoughts.
Let's just quickly, because everybody doesn't know what epigenetics is. Epigenetics is a body of research, a body of study that deals with how trauma is passed on to future generations. And Dr. Rachel Yehuda has done research with Holocaust survivors. Okay. She's written a study for the New England Journal of Medicine. And she's done a lot of research with Holocaust survivors, and they show how trauma can cause elevated hormonal levels, and it can alter your DNA, the FKBP5 portion of your DNA, FKBP5. It causes elevated hormonal levels, and you can pass on this altered DNA to future generations. And they saw this with Holocaust survivors. So AtlantaBlackStar.com, they had an article about this. They had a short video and said, well, if this can happen to Holocaust survivors, could this happen to survivors of the Great Ma'afa, of the transatlantic slave trade? Okay. But there's a whole body of study called epigenetics, EPIGENETICS. If people should research epigenetics. Go ahead, Brother Kaba.
Well, I was going to say part of the epigenetics is what we're doing economically, that we have that our system of living intergenerationally has brought us to this point. And this is part of the reason why we don't do business with each other, is because we have bought into the concept, as others have said, that European ice is colder than black ice.
Right.
And so we have to look at this psychologically and genetically to regroup and go back to where we were at one point, because it can be turned around.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It could be turned around.
And it's being turned around. And the fact we're doing this at the Charles H. Wright Museum shows that it is being done.
Absolutely. Friday, November 24th, Black Friday. So Black Friday across the country should kick off a whole shopping season where African Americans redirect as many dollars as possible to African American owned businesses and continue this into the new year. Okay. Practice the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, the Nguzo Saba. And the reason why it goes from December 26th to January the 1st is so you can take those 7 principles into the new year and practice them 365 days out of the year. All right, Brother Kaba, look, I'm going to let you go. We got to get out of here. I'll see you in Detroit on Friday. You travel safely, man. And Mod Hotep, okay?
Imhotep, and thank you for this opportunity. And to the family that's watching this, I look forward to the future because it ain't over till we win.
It ain't over till we win. Okay, brother. Peace.
Hotep to you, my brother.
All right, Hotep. All right, family. That's Professor Kaba Kamene, one of my teachers. You can, if you go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com and click on podcasts, listen to podcasts of Michael Imhotep. You can go and you can search for interviews I've done with him throughout the years. He's in the Hidden Colors documentaries. He's in 1804, documentary 1804. This documentary came out November 1st, The Hidden History of Haiti. This is with the history of the Haitian Revolution. He's featured in there. We have the Hidden Colors documentaries at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have 1804. You can order those there. We're shipping stuff out, shipped a bunch of orders out yesterday and Monday. We're shipping a ton of orders out on Friday. I'm getting orders together now, actually shipping a lot of orders out on Friday, Saturday, as well. Okay. All right. So this is a special broadcast of the African History Network show. And I wanted to bring him on because we have a special program at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit on Friday, November 24th, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're doing a screening of the new documentary Black Friday 2. The Living Legacy. We'll have director Rick Mathers there, director of the film. I'm in the film. Professor Kaba's in the film also. You can order the Black Friday. We have a Black Friday bundle pack where you get all 3 Black Friday documentaries and you get 3 of my DVD presentations. You get all that. I think that's $60 or $50. $60, something, whatever. Something like that at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So check that out also. Okay. Look, we got to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Okay. And he talked about white fragility, right? I still use the term white supremacy, but I make it clear that white supremacy is a false concept that has real consequences and repercussions. White supremacy is a false concept that has real consequences and repercussions. And, and I've studied Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. I've interviewed her 3 times. You can go listen to those podcasts at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. When I talk about white supremacy, it does not mean that I think Europeans are superior. I talk about white supremacy because many Europeans think that they are superior and act accordingly. But white supremacy is a false concept that has real consequences and repercussions. But from the ideology of white supremacy comes the power structure of racism. People have to understand what racism is. And if you read some of my articles, I deal with this. Read the article that I wrote called White Racism versus Black Racism. Most people are confused about what racism is, because racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, coming out of the ideology of white supremacy. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, privileges, benefits, land, access to education, access to opportunity, media, etc. And they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. That's what racism is. Okay. So people oftentimes are confused about racism. Racism is a power structure. African Americans cannot be racist because we control about 1.2 to 2% of the wealth in America. We don't control enough of anything as a group of people. Racism is a group to group relationship. It's not individual to individual. Racism does not have anything to do with hating people. That's bigotry. This is where people get confused. You can't fight what you don't understand. This is why when I deal with racism, you have to understand racism from a historical perspective. And the foundation of this in this country, we go back to 1638 in the colony of Maryland and the doctrine of exclusion, which stated that Negroes should never be permitted to enjoy the fruits of white society. Around 1665 is going to be expanded to the other colonies, and it's going to state that Negroes should be relegated to a non-compensated, non-competitive workforce for the express comfort building of white society. Dr. Claude Anderson deals with this in Black Label White Wealth. Black Label White Wealth. Visit his website, powernomics.com. Powernomics.com. You can download, you can order his lectures there, powernomics.com, and you can order his books. Also go to his other website, harvestinstitute.org. HARVEST, harvestinstitute.org. Okay, check that out also, harvestinstitute.org. 2 websites for Dr. Claude Anderson, and I'll be interviewing him November 30th. Okay, November 30th, so look out for that also. Okay, look, we got to get out of here. Remember, right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. We'll talk to you next time. Imhotep, peace. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to tune into this broadcast. Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in. Oh, also sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828. Sign up for our email newsletter. Okay. All right. And I'll see you all in the Detroit area and up in Flint and all the surrounding areas. I'll see you at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, Friday, November 24th. Okay. Talk to you next time. Peace. We got to get out of here.